Hey there friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I want to talk about Heart of Inmost Light in Destiny 2 after its recent nerf with Lightfall. Now, I think this exotic armor has gone from completely dominating the game and being way too strong to actually being maybe a little bit underrated after the nerf because of the synergy that it has with various builds and the way you can really play around its strengths. I think a lot of people now think because they can't just endlessly spam the abilities, it's just not good anymore, and I think that is completely false. So let's jump into it, talk about the nerf, all that kind of good stuff, and I'll explain my build, and especially why this build can be used with any subclass, essentially, which I absolutely love. So Heart of Inmost Light has the perk Overflowing Light. Using an ability, Grenade, Melee, or Barricade empowers the other two abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. So the nerf actually dropped the hit points of the barricades and reduced the time frame that your abilities are empowered from 10 seconds to 5. Obviously that's massive. It means less time that you can actually benefit from them being strong, but also you don't get as much of the regeneration as you would like with your abilities either. So you went from essentially, like I said, being able to just throw abilities without even thinking to now having to really play into what this does well and focus on using your abilities in a order that makes the most sense. So essentially what I often do is I'll go in with my barricade, use that first, and then toss a grenade, wait a second or two, or chase some enemies down, use a melee, whether it's a shield bash or something like that, and then so on and so forth. And then you're going to use your weapons to get some kills in order to regenerate your abilities and then start the cycle all over again. But again, there's ways to maximize this. You can use weapons that have demolitionists in order to get your grenade back faster, etc., etc. And I think you can still make very fun builds with this. But the one that I found that works really well for me is actually pairing it with Traveler's Chosen. So a lot of people sleep on Traveler's Chosen in PvE, but I'm going to explain why I think it's still pretty good. So it's got the trait Gathering Light. Final blows with this weapon grant stacks of Gathering Light. Hold your reload to consume stacks, granting melee, grenade, and class ability energy based on the number of stacks. In PvP, I explained this in a previous video. This is very nice because you can get one kill and really generate a lot of your ability energy back quite a bit, which is nice. But in PvE, if you kill red bars, you're not going to generate a lot of ability energy. However, with Heart of Inmost Light, you're already generating ability energy as well, so you're not going to need a lot in order to get your abilities back faster. So that kind of works as a nice little cycle where you are essentially using your abilities, killing a couple enemies with Traveler's Chosen, holding the reload, and you're getting your abilities back very quickly, which is nice and allows you to kind of get the buff from them as well, far more than you would otherwise. The other reason this works out very well, and I think something people sleep on a lot with Traveler's Chosen, is it does have osmosis. So using your grenade ability changes this weapon's damage type to match your subclass until you stow it. This is actually underrated as hell in PvE, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite perks, and I use it all the time because we've seen with this artifact perks this season that they are leaning into specific subclass roles. So for example, we have Volatile Flow. Picking up an Overpower grants your void weapons volatile rounds. Now, where does Traveler's Chosen benefit from this? When you throw a grenade while you're running a void subclass, you will get osmosis, so it makes this a void weapon, thus you can use volatile rounds. I think it is great synergy, especially like I said, with Heart of Inmost Light, and it just kind of pairs together perfectly, and a lot of people just don't assume that it's going to work well. Again, with, like, for example, the Void Titan, and you constantly generate overshields, you're able to stay alive really well. It actually works out really well when you're able to use a sidearm, which I think, especially once we see the SMGs nerfed in PvE, sidearms are going to rise in usage, in my opinion. They're better than a lot of people think in PvE, even in endgame content, where yes, you do want to play it more safe and a little bit more cautious, but because of the way this build works, you really don't have to as much. So other reasons why this works out very well. I am running my bubble, and I have my shield bash on, so this is going to suppress targets. Final blows with Shield Bash grants an overshield. Again, that's very nice. I'm also rocking the magnetic grenade, a grenade that attaches to targets and explodes twice. The reason being, this isn't the best grenade. However, I do have Echo of Undermining, so my Void Grenades weaken targets, which is huge because you're going to do more damage with the second burst because the targets are weakened, but also it'll stick to bosses and other enemies that are moving around quite a bit, and champions as well, and you're going to be able to melt them very fast, which is awesome. I also have Echo of Leeching, melee final blows start health regeneration for you and your allies. That's very nice. I'm running a glaive with this build, which helps out as well. Again, I want to generate health as often as possible, and that leads me to my final fragment, Echo of Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour. So essentially, I'm always going to be either healing or having an overshield, and it's almost impossible for me to die with this build. It's absolutely crazy, and I love it. I can use it across all different types of content. My aspects control demolition. This helps out again with my grenade and kind of buffs that as well. Then I'm also rocking Bastion for the overshields. So the weapons I was using, Ecliptic Distaff. This glaive is okay, and I use it from time to time just to try to check it out and see if I can maximize its potential. But pretty much all the seasonal weapons are mid. They're all fine, but none of them are special. So you could definitely use something else in this stead, and hopefully we get some better options for glaives, void glaives going forward. But then also the other weapon that I'm using is Retrofit Escapade. I have a crafted version with force time and target lock. Machine guns are very good this season after the most recent buff. Highly recommend checking them out if you haven't so far. I know a lot of people are running them, so avoid machine gun. You could use a strand machine gun here too if you'd like, but for me, with volatile rounds, having this retrofit is just very, very fun. There's a commemoration you could use, which is a void machine gun that has reconstruction, which is awesome as well. So whatever option fits best for your playstyle. Then as far as the mods, we got the siphons. So Void Siphon is huge there. We've got heavy-handed and firepower, which is nice. I think a lot of it depends on your preference, what you're able to get the most kills with for that. So that's why I have both, because I'm getting kills with each of them to try to generate orbs. I'm running arc damage resistance and melee damage resist, as well as void reserves. Reason being, I want as much ammo for my machine gun as possible. I want arc damage resist because that was what was buffed in this week's activity, and then melee damage because I am getting up close and personal. I want to stay alive as much as possible. Innovation, void weapon surge ×2, and then distribution, bomber, and time dilation. So essentially, again, I want to generate my abilities as much as possible. Once the artifact changes and next season we see a different set of benefits for a different subclass, I'll be able to swap out everything but my Traveler's Chosen and Heart of Inmost Light and just carry on with these two kind of staying as they are, because I'll be able to maximize whatever artifact perk is the best fit that season. And that's one of the reasons I love this, because of Osmosis, because of Heart of Inmost Light, being subclass agnostic. I'll be able to run this every single season if I do want. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Destiny content from me going forward. I've been throwing up tons of videos on the channel, and I appreciate all the love lately. It's been amazing. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.